Today we find out if LeBron James and Paul George opt out of their Lakers and Clippers contracts. The Kings draft a power forward. All they have to do is teach him how to skate. And Matthew Stafford's wife apologizes, but not to who you'd expect. Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos morning report. And so it is June 29th, 2024, back in the sanctum sanctorum of LA sports. And yes, as you might tell, the backdrop is a little different. Sanctum sanctorum be a-movin' soon. But whatever, let's get the day off on a good note. If you like being in the know about LA sports, click the like button. Click the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist, and by all means comment. Now, before we go through the news and notes, a look at the scoreboard. Slum Francisco 5, Dodgers 3. Blake Trinan allowed a walk-off home run in the ninth. Gavin Lux drove in a run and scored. Also, the Sparks finished a 7-game road trip 0-7. Phoenix 92, Sparks 78. Meanwhile, today, the Dodgers are still up in Slum Francisco. The game starts at 4:15. Tyler Glasnow, 8-5 with a 2.88 ERA. Eric Miller, 2-2 with a 3.79 ERA. It is Galaxy game day. The Galaxy are up in San Jose at 7:30. Ricky Puig is available to return for the Galaxy. Gaston Brugman, no, not so much. And Colorado is at LAFC at 7:30. The Black and Gold are unbeaten in their last 8 matches, but the Rapids also have a 3-match winning streak too. What do you say we get to the news? 3 major players, or I should say 3 players, one most definitely major, all have decisions to make about their future with the Lakers today. Obviously, LeBron James is one of them. We'll talk more about him in just a few moments, because we've been talking about LeBron James a lot lately anyway. D'Angelo Russell reportedly did opt in, take his player option to stay with the Lakers. This is according to The Athletic. Cam Reddish and Jackson Hayes all have the option to in their contracts. We just haven't heard a decision yet. So let's start with Russell for a half second, because this is a more interesting one, frankly, because nobody thinks LeBron James is leaving. Russell's option is for $18.7 million, but nobody heard a single rumor about anyone wanting him as a free agent for that amount or more if he opted out. Why would you decline that much money for a pay cut, right? He was definitely an upgrade over Russell Westbrook in terms of fit, but his playoff disappearing acts against Denver, plus if you take into consideration how he wore out his welcome the first time he was with the Lakers as a rookie, he wasn't exactly embraced by Laker fans. I would guess, and this is just speculation, that Russell opted in to basically force the Lakers' hand. Either embrace me or trade me. And the Lakers don't exactly have a problem with this. They don't. Contracts between $10 million and $20 million are considered highly tradable assets in the NBA. The Lakers now have 4 such players: Russell, Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, Jared Vanderbilt. You combine a couple of those in a trade package and maybe with a draft pick or 2, and you have a definite shot at a roster upgrade. Now, as for Reddish and Hayes, they make about $2 million a year each. So Reddish kind of contributed. I don't recall Jackson Hayes ever taking over a game. If they stay, granted it's a couple of million each, but those aren't nightmares. Meanwhile, with James, let's be candid. The Lakers have made it very clear that they would do whatever it takes to keep him. So far, they hired a friend of his as a head coach. Then they drafted his son. What's a 3-year max contract, right? So that's why we didn't lead off with any drama regarding LeBron James. He's going to stay. Let's be real. Now, as for the Clippers, Fox Sports surveyed NBA executives and determined that there are only 2 game-changing type players that are going to be available this offseason. And they're also assuming that LeBron James is staying with the Lakers. So of the 2, the Clippers' Paul George is one of them. We have been repeating about this drama with Paul George and the Clippers ad nauseum for months. So we're just going to wait and see what he decides to do today. Why repeat it one more time? PJ Tucker has also reportedly exercised his player option in his contract to stay with the Clippers. And this is odd in just one sense. When he was traded to the Clippers, he wanted the Clippers to trade him because they would not play him. He would literally go months at a time without getting on the court. The Clippers wouldn't play him. He's 39. He knows he will not be making the money that he would make with another team if he were a free agent. Again, he's 39. He might not get any offers, period. So this is basically his golden parachute, even if it's just a matter of him sitting on the bench. Big day coming up in the NBA today. Very big day. Meanwhile, the LA Kings draft right-winger Liam Greentree of Windsor in the OHL. He has attributes that scouts appreciate. He's a power forward that makes plays. Reports are mixed as to how well he plays defense, but apparently Windsor, and I'd be lying to you if I said that I had a deep knowledge of the OHL, but Windsor was terrible. Greentree still scored 36 goals and recorded 90 points in 64 games. But you may have heard this, not just about Greentree, but about a lot of Kings draft picks in general. He can't skate. Now, I don't mean he looked like Talia Shire in the skating ring scene in Rocky. I don't mean like that. I mean skate in terms of being an NHL level elite player. And I've been a longtime Kings fan. They always said the same thing about Luc Robitaille, right? But let's be real. Luc Robitaille was playing 4 decades ago. So there is a problem if you can't skate with proficiency in the NHL. Now, the Kings actually traded back from 21 to 26 with Montreal. They still landed a guy that scouts believe have top 10 talent, if only he could skate. So you hear the phrase value pick, and it most definitely applies to this guy. You get a potential top 10 pick, and you get him at 26. Yeah, that's a choice you make. But it's going to take a few years before you see him in LA. This is not an immediate game-changing selection. Meanwhile, as I just mentioned a moment ago, the Kings traded with Montreal to go back to 26. In order to drop back 5 spots, the Kings picked up 2 additional picks. One is going to be in the 2nd round, the other in the 7th. Kelly Stafford apologized for airing her laundry about dating the backup quarterback at Georgia to make a much younger Matthew Stafford extremely jealous. She apologized, all right, to the backup quarterback. Did she apologize for dragging her husband publicly a 2nd time? No, she totally didn't. Now, to repeat, despite what you may be reading online, there is no proof that Mrs. Stafford, when she was Miss Stafford, actually slept with the backup. She didn't say she did. Nobody says nobody in that little love triangle is saying what Kelly Stafford actually did other than date, right? But the guy now is married with kids. So please believe this reformed bad boy had to explain things to his real wife. And that's why Kelly Stafford apologized. But this is one of those reasons why you shouldn't air your dating life like that when you're married, particularly to a professional athlete. Making a guy in a sport of alpha males look like a simp is not a good idea. People need to understand that now. Your best play in life is not to be your authentic self. In this case, the best play is to pretend to be the very pretty virgin bride. Even if nobody thinks you're a virgin, play the virgin bride. Because many people are now assuming that she did sleep with the backup quarterback, and that bell cannot be unrung. Matthew Stafford deserves his apology too. You can't keep dragging your husband around publicly. Especially when you're giving these stories and you're saying Matthew Stafford, your husband, is a good guy. Why would you drag a good man like that? Meanwhile, also with the Rams, Pro Football Focus, also known as PIF, thinks very highly of the Rams receiving corps, as they should. They're ranked 8th among receiving corps in the league to PFF. To be honest, though, they say outside of Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, the rest of the players get low grades. Now, I don't know if I buy that. Does Demarcus Robinson deserve a low grade? I will grant you that he was struggling for a few years. He's pushing 30, but the dude was absolutely terrific when he took over the 3rd spot from Tutu Atwell and Ben Skowronek last year. Robinson was so good, Skowronek became trade bait. Skowronek is gone. I believe Houston, if my memory serves. So this leaves us wondering yet once again if Atwell will finally blossom. But the interesting point about the quality of having 2 devastating wide receivers in Kupp and Nacua, you pull defenders out for additional pass coverage, right? Well, that inevitably means that there are not going to be enough defenders to stop the run. Now, Sean McVay knew this last year and used it to his advantage to run the ball, which in turn runs the clock. And it kept a really young defense last year off the field, giving the Rams a chance to win games early in a rebuilding year and still qualify for the playoffs. Last year, the Rams were 8th in the NFL in terms of calling run plays. You're not, that whole idea of, we want to call 50-50, let's be real. Nobody does that. But the Rams were 8th in the league, calling run plays 41% of the time. Even when the Rams were losing games last year, they stayed committed to the run. The Rams were 4th in the league. If they were trailing in the second half, they would still be 4th in the league in terms of calling running plays. So the question I have is, the Rams are now even younger. Aaron Donald isn't there. What does that tell you about what we should expect from McVay's play calling this year? Meanwhile, if shedding players were like hairlines, USC football would need a comb over by now. Former Trojans cornerback Sayer Wright is heading to Nebraska. When he was in high school, he was considered the 7th best corner in the country. So what was his mistake? Thinking Clay Helton and Alex Grinch could develop his talent. Sorry, dude. Totally get it. Enjoy Omaha. If that's possible, I've been there. Also, 4-star safety Hilton Stubbs has officially decommitted from USC. Much like how the Trojans lost 2 Georgia defensive linemen last week, 2 Georgia defensive lineman recruits, Stubbs is from Jacksonville. The 2 defensive linemen from Georgia are from Georgia. One committed to Georgia. Stubbs is from Jacksonville. He's apparently being pursued by Florida. As a result, the Trojans class has been in free fall. Less than 2 weeks ago, USC's class for 2025 was considered 5th in the nation. Now they've been ranked 31st. And I really hate to pile on Lincoln Riley because in my opinion, and I will stand by this opinion, I believe he's doing things the right way. He's going to recruits and saying something along the lines of, listen, I get offensive players into the NFL all the time. Look at the list of Heisman players that I've developed, not only at USC, but at Oklahoma. And now I have a defensive coaching staff that can promise you likewise. And that's a good sales pitch. It should play out in the long run. The problem is you're asking teenagers to move across the country for an unknown. We know that the Trojans' defensive coaching staff is sincerely upgraded over Alex Grinch. We just haven't seen the results on the field because they haven't coached an actual game yet. So asking a teenager to move across the country for that is a big risk. Meanwhile, UCLA football has added a quarterback to the recruiting class of 2025. Colton Gamino is a 3-star prospect from Arlington Heights, Illinois. He passed for more than 2,000 yards as a junior last year. Back to USC, this time basketball. Forward Matt Noling, who transferred to the Trojans from Yale, is expected to miss up to 3 months to recover from a sports hernia surgery scheduled later this week. Noling is not anticipated to be a starter. He's basically going to be considered a so-called glue guy off the bench. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Is your heart palpitating over LeBron and Paul George? Are you okay with what the Kings have done in the first round of the NHL draft? And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is an Corte El Queso production. Take care.